Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Omar Khalid, but today is the 22nd of November 2024 and these are the stories that we'll be highlighting in the course of the show. We'll begin with our PSX that has shown a historic high today by passing the benchmark of 99,000. Who would have thought a few months ago that the PSX could even cross 99,000 or even 90,000 for that matter, but it is investor confidence, it is the way things are moving forward in the right direction and so many more other approaches that are leading to the PSX achieving this high, and who knows what might happen in the next few weeks or even a week or so. This is going to be our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Middle East situation, and of course it has been 411 days since Israel and Palestine's conflict began, and now the ICC has also come up. We all remember the ICC and the ICJ's role in the past as well, but now the ICC warrants have been issued on Netanyahu as well as Gallant and of course a senior Hamas leader. But will this have any implication? There are a lot of rumors going around on which country will adapt to it or which country will not. This and more will be discussed in our second story. Then we are going to talk about North Korea's latest weapon against the South Korea, and that is gunshots, screams, eerie laughter, using sound or noise as a way to dismantle the daily lives of the Koreans. Then we will talk about comedian, which is a banana duct tape to a wall by artist Maurizio Cattelan. It is causing a stir in the art world again, because this is not the first time that we saw this. It has come back again. What people do, they buy it and they eat the banana, and then the artist makes it again. But the fact remains that it has been sold for $6.2 million US at Sothebys auction house. Well, as they say, art, has its own interpretation for people, and some like it, some don't, and some feel it is worth $6.2 million US. Finally, height difference proved no barrier as the world's tallest women towered over the shortest women while both enjoyed each other's company at a Guinness World Records meetup in London. The tall and the short of it, as they say, this is what these two women proved as well by meeting and of course enjoying their time together. Let's begin with our show and with our first segment that concerns the PSX, Pakistan's economy, and the new benchmark that has been now set by PSX by crossing the 99,000 mark. We've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios we've been joined by Zartasha Inayat. She's a research economist at Prime. Zartasha, thank you very much to have joined us. Online we've been joined by Dr. Gulfraz Ahmad. He's a former Secretary, Finance Ministry. Dr. Saab, it's a pleasure to have you in my show as always. Let's begin with you, Zartasha. Zartasha, positive momentum at the PSX. It crosses 99,000. In fact, it was at 99,623.03 during the intraday, numbers. What do you attribute this historic high to? Would you have even thought, say 3 months back, that the PSX could cross the 99,000 barrier?
Thank you, Omar, first of all, for having me on the show. You see, there are positive indicators, and they have been positive for last few months. In low inflation coupled with low interest rates and high reserves. These are the factors that contribute to investors' confidence and boost their confidence in investing in the PSX. So these reasons and the global markets, you must be aware of cryptocurrency, which has a bullish trend for like past month or so. These factors have contributed to the increase in the PSX rating. But as an economist, I cannot ignore the other factors that are affecting the economy. PSX is one indicator. The other indicators, like let's say FBR's revenue target shortfall is around 190 billion for the first quarter. So if we are looking at the economy, we have to take in all of these factors to look at economy's health. Only looking at PSX as a positive indicator is
But it is an indicator nevertheless, and it's highly positive to say the least. We've never seen the numbers, these numbers before. And I understand that you want to say that there needs to be a holistic approach as far as the economic indicators are concerned. We need to keep all the indicators in mind when we look at Pakistan's economy and its progress. That is an important or interesting point as well. Dr. Gulfraz, across the board buying also was seen at the PSX in key sectors like automobile assemblers, commercial banks, fertilizer, oil, gas exploration companies, index heavy stocks including FFC and PSO, PPL, OGDC traded in the green as well. Then you couple that with the PSX benchmarks that are, achieving new heights with, say, like every passing week. What factors do you feel have led to all of this happening in Pakistan's stock exchange?
I think there are various factors, and one of them is the investors' confidence. What has boosted their confidence is an overall improvement in the economy. But I must say that this Pakistan Stock Exchange rise is sometimes triggered by the investors, particularly the foreigners who want to let it rise and then take their money out and make the kill. So this is positive, but we have to be very careful because, as the other guest has said, that other economic indicators are not very positive. Look at our revenue shortfall. The main thing which actually talks about economy that is the revenue position. If the revenue was positive, then in that case we would of course be in a very positive outlook. But in this particular case, there is revenue shortfall, and because of that revenue shortfall, the IMF package has been conditionalized. So on one hand, you are seeing the stock market keep increasing. On the other hand, you see the serious economic indicators challenging. So in this case, we ought to not to overread in the stock exchange appreciation. We should look at holistically the whole economic situation.
All right, coming to you, Zartasha. The thing is, I mean, I understand the holistic approach, but let's talk about the upward trajectory of the Pakistan stock market. A lot of analysts say that this, this spree comes on the back of institutional buying as liquidity is shifting from fixed income to equities. Then, of course, attribution of this bull run to positive macroeconomic indicators. Inflation is apparently expected to be between 4.5% to 5% in November, which is a low that was last witnessed in 2018. Then the positive momentum is also being maintained by a current account surplus along with institutions and mutual funds buying. Are these the only reasons, or do you think of some other reasons that could also contribute?
So if I take an example of an ordinary man or even an investor, one would only invest in sectors like you have earlier mentioned, PSO and OGDCL and fertilizers. One would only invest if they see a boost in production of these sectors, right? So with the stable currency, we didn't see any fluctuations, any sharp fluctuations in our exchange rate for the past year almost. So with the stable currency, because our sectors are heavily reliant on raw materials imports. So when we are importing raw materials at low prices, the production cost decreases and the profits of those sectors or those industries increases. With the rising or boost in those profits, investors see a positive or they have an incentive to invest in or buy the stocks of those industries. Similarly, IMF has also given a signal for stable economies, Pakistan's stable economy for at least a few months, as we can see that. So these factors, I believe, have along with the factors that you mentioned, or contributing to the boosted investors' confidence.
All right. The market is also anticipating a lower inflation rate for November. I mentioned
Yes.
this a little bit before, which raises the projections rather of a further rate cut.
Yes.
The people are talking about an inflation reading of 4.5 to 5%. I mentioned it, but I wanted to highlight it again. What happens if this inflation comes to 4.5 to 5%? What are the outcomes? How could it affect our economy?
So, first of all, when we talk about the inflation, SBP's target has been to control inflation since 2019. So, now once the target has been achieved, the next is to lower the policy rate, and when that policy rate is further reduced, more businesses would like to invest and produce and contribute in the economy. So, when there is private sector activity, there would be boost in consumption, and that would further lead to increase in investment. So, all these factors would contribute to the positive economic indicators, in specifically the GDP, because even the IMF has projected a 3.5% or 3% increase in GDP for the next year. So, we do see a positive growth for the next year.
All right, Zartasha, also the market is anticipating that the government might try a new solution to settle the outstanding balance of the circular debt of the ENPs. And the market is also not expecting much disruption from, certain issues that we are witnessing as far as Pakistan's political arena is concerned. This is what a lot of business analysts are saying. They also think that the positive momentum that has been seen in the stock exchange is going to continue, and the index will soon cross the 100,000 level. What's your take on that?
Circular debt is a big bottleneck for like every other industry, because the high energy costs has been a cause of disruption in the business activities. So, if the circular debt issue is resolved, and if government is serious about resolving this issue, it would further definitely increase the activity of the private sector. Similarly, with this production and with this increase in economic activity, we can anticipate an increase in exports, because we have very stagnant exports. We do talk about it a lot, because that's how we aim to, that's how we can increase our foreign exchange reserves. So, I believe resolving the circular debt should be government's priority. About the political instability, well, even after the PTI's announcement of rally, there hasn't been a significant impact on the PSX. But if that political stability remains, and if the investor sees it in that way, that this political instability is ephemeral or very short lasting, it would not affect the PSX. But if it can lead to a chaos, which we have seen previously in the history of Pakistan, the political instability has definitely affected the economic activity in the country. So, we might not see the positive trend that has been
that we have been witnessing in the last week. But the fact remains that there isn't much to say as far as political instability in Pakistan is concerned, and this is what is also being seen and observed by the business community, and that is why we see the PSX continuing to rise. Pakistan's stock market has now become the second best performing market of the world. In the past also it crossed the 97,000 mark just 2 days back, and closed at its highest level of around 97,328. If, as you said, the environment remains conducive and the trend continues, what effect could it have on our economy?
On our economy?
Yes.
So, of course, positive things lead to further positive improvements in the economy. So, if we have stable currency, stable exchange rates, stable inflation or lower inflation and lower interest rates, that would further boost the economic activity, and but we should focus on other structural issues that our economy is currently facing. one of the issues that even IMF has highlighted is low revenue collection. So Pakistan has focused on increasing the tax rate. So,
but now they are also talking about the agricultural tax and other taxes that are going to be imposed, and all the sectors are going to be included in that. So that also is a step in the right direction.
Exactly, that should be done at the priority basis. But our priority should be to increase the tax base instead of increasing the tax tax rate. Similarly, the privatization that has been previously a focus of government, but with the delay in privatization of PIA, it has somehow, diminished our hopes that there would be any privatization.
I feel, to be very frank, Zartasha, between us, privatization is a long procedure, and the fact that it is an organization such as the PIA makes it a longer process to achieve. But I think things are also moving in the right direction. It's a bit slow and steady, but it's going to go there. A lot of analysts, Zartasha, talk about subsiding political risk, robust institutional interest driven by easing interest rates, which has supported the index's continued strong performance. Do you feel that these indicators, as well as an attractive dividend yield of around 10.5% that a lot of analysts also talk about, could lead to a further impetus stimulus in the business market?
Well, given that my strongest area is economy, and I believe we need to look again at the holistic approach, and yes, the low interest rate, we have already talked about it. Low interest rate will definitely boost the economic activity, but we need to be careful about the reheating of the market. What could happen is when there is there is demand pull inflation and there is cost push inflation. So when there is high production and availability of goods is more in the market, that could again lead to rise in prices. So there is a trade-off between high interest rate and inflation. So we need, and SBP needs to look at it carefully, so not to not to give rise in inflation to 40% that we have seen previously.
True. But I think
last year,
if we look at the economic indicators of the last few months, things seem to move in the right direction, and with a certain approach that seems very optimistic, to say the least. Dr. Gulfraz, coming to you, the Pakistani rupee has also strengthened against the US dollar, appreciating 0.11% during the open hours of trading in the interbank market today. Should we consider this as a positive indicator?
0.1% increase is positive, but you cannot read too much in a small fluctuation. Actually, the challenges that the economy faces is the revenue shortfall. And then you talked about the circular debt. Circular debt is not a circular debt. It is just a shortfall in the revenues. And you mentioned that the government is thinking of doing something about circular debt. It is going to be very interesting to know what strategy the government wants to follow in case they can take care of the circular debt, and in case they can maintain the growth of the revenues. Then in that case we are definitely in the positive direction.
Also, Dr. Gulfraz, when you look at the different indicators, when you look at the way things are moving forward, and it's not something that has been happening just in the last 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it has been happening at a consistent rate in the last few months as well. Positive indicators, we've talked about the monetary policy announcement by the State Bank of Pakistan, the reduction in the policy rate as well by the basis points, a low current account deficit, higher remittances, decline in inflation. What, in your point of view, I mean, you talk of a holistic approach, what approach would you take, for example, given the certain circumstances that we are watching in the business arena?
Well, in order to take, positive actions, one has to take care of, at this point in time, threats to our security, which are getting sharper and sharper, and also there is a political uncertainty in the country, and I suggest that if we are able to harmonize the political uncertainty and also take care of the security issues, then these economic indicators will mean much more for the economic revival of the country.
Dr. Gulfraz, finally, how can we trigger investment in your point of view and support higher economic activity? What should the methodology be?
Well, first of all, we should be able to increase our revenue. That is the first point which actually inspires the investors, because our increase in revenue will continue to support our economic well-being. And the second thing, as I mentioned, that we must try to make an effort to finish the political uncertainty in the country. That can also take away the investors' confidence. And the last thing that I just indicated, of late, our security situation has become quite precarious. So many people are being lost in Balochistan and NWFP, and that does not send a good signal to the investors, potential investors. So we have to take a holistic approach to improve the country's economy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gulfraz, to have joined us and to have talked to us, and in your point of view, the holistic approach that needs to be taken. Coming to the studios, Zartasha, our finance minister had recently outlined significant economic reforms, tax policies that were aimed at increasing transparency and sustainability in our economy. You know, he talked about the meetings that he has had also recently. We've seen that with the IMF, with the Asian Development Bank and other such important organizations. He says the economy is on the right path and is going to continue to grow. He says that even the reports by the rating agencies point that Pakistan is moving up the ladder. I mean, it's a slow and steady pace, but they are moving up the ladder. I'd ask the same question more or less that I asked Dr. Gulfraz. How can we sustain the economy on the right path and further scale down inflation?
So I believe policy continuity is the most important thing for any country to have a steady, even though slow but steady growth. We have seen historically that we have even jumped to the 6% and 7% growth as well, but that was very short lasting. That wasn't something we could rely on in the long run. So this time it might be different. I wish it is different this time, that we have steady, it's even slow. We don't mind the slow growth, but we do have a steady growth. And the factors that could count in is we need to have long-term planning for that. There is no short way to the success. We need to have structural adjustments in our economy, and we need to have higher productivity to for the private sector, so that we can not only boost our production, we can make our workers worth of producing what they are currently producing. So only with that we can increase our current production, we can meet our domestic demands, and then we can export whatever is left to us. Similarly, our exports are mainly dominated by agriculture or textile products, which are not sustainable in the long run. We talked about last time the IT exports have been growing, and this is a really positive indicator for the economy, because in this AI-led era we need to focus more on the IT sector, because it does not require any physical infrastructure even, to have and similarly I was reading this article and which mentioned that freelancers which do just work at their homes without involving any physical cost, they are contributing to the economy by $1 billion annually, by bringing in the dollars and in exchange of their services. So we need to have high productivity of our workers, and in the on the macro side we need stable indicators for the steady even at the slow pace. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Zartasha and I, to have joined us. We have discussed, as Dr. Gulfraz said, you were in unison as far as the holistic approach that we need to take as far as our economic arena is concerned in order to stabilize our economy even further, in order to have more and more indicators that move in the positive direction, and to have an economy that strengthens, that stabilizes, and results in a prosperous Pakistan. Thank you very much, Zartasha, to have joined us. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns the Middle East situation, and of course what is happening in Gaza, what is happening in Lebanon. The fact is that it has been 411 days since this whole conflict began in Palestine, and still shows no signs of abating. Is proof that there are a lot of issues that need to be tackled with on an urgent basis. We've been joined by Dr. Gul.i.Ayesha Bhatti, who is a foreign affairs analyst. Thank you very much, Dr. Gul.i.Ayesha, to have joined us. Dr. Gul.i.Ayesha, I'll begin with the elephant that is in the room, and of course the most important issue that has kind of enveloped the world, and that is the ICC, the warrants, the arrest warrants that have been issued by the ICC for the Israeli Prime Minister, the former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and Hamas's military chief Mohammed Deif. My questions are many, but concern these arrest warrants that have been issued. Will Netanyahu and Gallant as well as Deif be arrested? Can an ICC investigation or warrant be paused? Can Netanyahu and the other accused still travel to other countries? And will this application for warrants affect other cases that are going on as well?
Thank you, Omar. Actually, indeed, this is a very historical incident, and it's a historic move, and the whole world was anticipating for it. And it actually vindicates that how around the world the people were asking about the decisions based on human rights and based on human assistance. And as these ICC reported about the war crimes being committed by the Israeli administration, specifically individually Netanyahu and Gallant, and these arrest warrants, definitely they cannot travel to almost 124 states that are the signatory of ICC and Roman Statute. And but these kind of ICC and the rest of the other international human rights organizations and their decisions, they are called as soft laws. These soft laws where you cannot actually implement those laws, unfortunately. And in this scenario as well, because no trial in absentia is present and cannot be done, so they have to be there at Hague. And if they are not there, and if they are not there for their trial, so definitely we are not going to see a very concrete, a solution out of it. But yes, the reputation of Netanyahu, that is going to be badly affected. And there is another thing, that is the long-standing U.S. Along with the Israeli administration, and they are equally responsible for it. And definitely they are also going to face the isolation. And yes, they are facing. We have seen that one day before there was again a resolution being passed by UNSC on this permanent ceasefire, and America was the alone veto power over there, and 14 out of 15, they were in the favor of this ceasefire. So Netanyahu's reputation and his diplomatic isolation is quite evident, and along with America, yes.
Right. But do you feel that even if these warrants are not issued, you said that it's going to impact the status of Netanyahu, but what about diplomatic relations between countries? Because there are certain countries which have a certain stance and others that are, of course, siding with the ICC and the arrest warrants. Is this going to create a political polarity?
Yeah, indeed, it is going to create, but because right after that, those signatory states and their head of the states, they started giving that statements that yes, we are going to follow the decision of ICC, and yes, it is going to create a polarization, and that's what leading to US in isolation, and along with the Israel, they are going to face that isolation from them. And there is another interesting thing coming up, and it is just a news come up, and that was that John Thorne, that is the senator of American senator, and he is going to be the leader senator in 2025. He actually threatened ICC for this decision and requested Congress to put sanctions on ICC. So America, along with Israel, they are trying to safeguard themselves, and because they know that diplomatic isolation is going to harm them. Eventually Israel, because Israel is going to become a burden for America in the long run. And there is an interesting thing that the Democrats, Biden administration specifically, they are not understanding it. They are violating international human rights law. They are violating international law. They are violating American law. Even American law is not ready to accept this kind of, standing with that kind of state or a leader that is constantly involved in human rights atrocities, war crimes, and murders, and making people's life miserable in somewhere on the land. But again, American law against international law against human rights law, and it is on the cost of losing the election. They lost the election on it, yet they are not ready to compromise it. That is really surprising, and they should understand it.
No, Dr. Gul.i.Ayesha, we all know that the US policy vis-a-vis Israel is very open and very out there, and whether it be the Democrats or whether it be the Republicans, they all have sided with the Israelis, and they continue to do so. Joe Biden slams a decision by the ICC and says the ICC warrant will not stop Israel from defending itself. That is another comment that has been made by Netanyahu. Then, of course, the state of Palestine welcomes this decision by the ICC. It says that it restores hope in international law. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, also expresses outrage that was expected. Ambassador Danny Danon says the ICC warrants a shameful and political decision, and we need to speak to our allies and move forward with the decision to boycott the ICC, quote unquote. Let me repeat that: boycott the ICC and anyone who cooperates with it. In the wake of these statements such as these, do you feel that it's going to be business as usual for Israel?
No, actually not. Israel, they have to think about their decisions, what they are making. They are weaponizing hunger actually, and human right. They are not providing the basic human right assistance over there. And I'm saying it again. Look at the statistics that how they are trying to make life miserable over there. The South Gaza, that is considered as better than the rest of the Gaza, and they are. Only 16% of the families are getting food on daily basis, and recently they tried to make things. They were asked by the American administration to make it a better for the people in Gaza, and yet they were failed in doing so. And yes, although this Israeli lobby is very strong in America, and they're trying to make things appropriate according to their understanding, but in the long run, this is not going to happen because obviously the diplomatic isolation is real, and the international pressure is going to be more and more. And yes, the reputation of Netanyahu, that is badly going to affect, and there are a lot of examples of it as well. We have seen Mr. Putin, he has been sentenced on the same grounds, and he is not traveling anywhere. He's traveling in those states that are not a signatory of ICC. And yet again, I would say these are the international tools, human rights tools that are soft in nature, and there is a term called as modus operandi, and that is that you can break or violate international law whatever you want, and that makes things softer for Israel.
All right, so things are softer for Israel. What about Lebanon, where 3,583 people have been killed, 15,244 wounded, and the number of wounded and killed increases in the dozens almost every 24 hours. What is Lebanon's fate going to be if the situation continues as it is?
Definitely, they are going to face the difficulties in the future as well. But the change in administration in US, probably they are going to take the decisions according to the peaceful right of the civilian in Lebanon. We have seen that Trump he came in power on the promise of I am going to make the peace. I'm going to end the war. I'm going to make the peaceful land. So on these bases. So if Trump is ready to work on the Lebanon issue, and definitely he would do, because he's called as a famous negotiator and a peacemaker or a deal maker. So definitely he's going to work on it, but it's a longer run. He has to come and then he will decide things. Right now he's trying to make issuing the nominees of his upcoming cabinet, and that is little disappointing to see all those right-wing, orthodox, and rigid pro-Israeli cabinet members that they are going to come, and we'll see that we are anticipating that. Let's see what they do. But definitely Lebanon is also facing the same circumstances. International community is looking for it. And you know that after the decision of ICC, there are a lot of congressmen, they are in America, they are happy, but they cannot express their happiness, and they are happy with that they're okay, this is something we at least the humanity prevailed, at least the rule-based order and the justice prevailed. But in actual politics, things are really difficult, and they are really disappointing.
Let's talk about a recent bill that has been passed in the US House. It has not narrowly been passed, but it has been passed and it's now going to go to the Senate. The Stop Terror Financing and Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act received 218 votes in favor, 184 votes against. Now, the fact is that it stops aid for all those who are quote-unquote financing terror, and that will curb the aid for those NGOs that also are helping the Palestinians. For example, how do you view this bill and this passing by the US House and then going to the Senate? Is it going to affect the legitimacy of such NGOs that are helping, in fact, the Palestinians, looking at and understanding the fact also that UNRWA has also been banned, if you remember well?
Yeah, actually, this is, the definition of terrorism is different, for one state, it is often being called that one state is terrorist, other nation's freedom fighter. So the definition of terror is really, different from state to state. And if they are talking about the terrorism, so what kind of terrorism they are talking about? And if they are actually putting sanctions on those, they should actually do that, putting the sanctions on those NGOs. They are actually working for the terrorist activities, and that is really welcoming. But if they are doing it just to target those NGOs that is helping the Palestinians and that are providing humanitarian assistance to them, then this is unfortunate. It should not happen. But yes, they are, as we have seen that the Israeli lobby, it is really strong in America. It's the House of Republics and the senators. They are all have a strong tilt. We have seen that the tilt toward Israel and its administration. So yes, they are going to pass such a kind of bill that is definitely going to help Israel in future.
Dr. Gul.i.Ayesha, on the one hand, we have the Palestinians being killed, butchered mercilessly everywhere in South Gaza, North Gaza, and the fact that even in the tents that they are staying in Jabalia, in other places, they are being targeted mercilessly. We have 44,000 plus who've been killed and more than 104,000 who've been injured. Then comes the occupied West Bank, wherein also the settlers are creating havoc for the people. There are more than 17,020 Palestinians in Bedouin and other communities have been displaced from their homes in just over a year, and this has been reported by the United Nations. We have many people talking about the occupied West Bank, which will be annexed by Israel in the coming weeks or days. What is the fate of Palestine and the occupied West Bank as well? Do you feel some sanity will prevail, or this is exactly going to go as thought of by the Israelis?
In a utopian world, the sanity should prevail, but in this current cool political world, this is really difficult. But yes, the hopes are towards Trump's upcoming government and how he is going to handle the issue. Yes, the atrocities are there. The Israelis trying to kill, displace, and starve people over there, and definitely this is going to make things more and more difficult for them in future. And the international, now we have seen that all the international institutions, all the international organizations, UNSC, they are trying to bring peace, settlement over there. But we have seen that America is the only one that is constantly putting end to all these possible for upcoming solutions to it. And this is the fourth time on Wednesday that America did that. They vetoed this ceasefire in Gaza that was about to bring peace, and America was alone in that. There were 15 members and council members, and 14th they veto. They tried to pass the resolution. They gave vote in the favor of this resolution, but America was alone there standing. I don't know what they are thinking. I mean, they are doing that at the cost of losing the elections. We have seen that. But as I was saying it earlier, that because the Trump is a negotiator, he's a peacemaker or a deal maker, so he would try to bring peace over or try to bring this settle the issue. But we have to understand one thing, that Trump is a deal maker, but he would not try to solve the issue and address the root cause of the issue, and that is the two-state solution. We have seen that in the previous term of Mr. Trump, he tried to recognized Jerusalem as a capital of Israel, and his full support was there, and he tried to minimize the effect or try to minimize the highlights of Gaza and Palestinian cause at that time. And right now, although he promised, and the Muslims in America, they all voted Trump for that. All the Muslims sitting in the Michigan and all the Muslim majority areas over there in America, they voted Mr. Trump because they wanted change. They want peace in Palestine, and they voted for it. And now they are waiting for Mr. Trump. So Mr. Trump has got so many burden on his shoulder, and definitely we'll see what he'll going to act upon. But on the cruel, political, actual, realistic scenario, things are not, at least I'm not going to see it going to turn into a very positive way in near future. Although the whole world is trying to bring the peace, although America is going into isolation slowly, and it is evident that America is standing again alone with Israel, and but not ready to compromise his partnership with Israel and even after losing the election, specifically the Democrats.
Dr. Gul.i.Ayesha, also the fact remains that you mentioned that, you know, the fact of deprivation of basic necessities of life. There is not enough water, there is not enough food, there is not enough medicine, there is not enough facilities to help those who are injured, who are sick, and there is so much of disease that is prevalent in Palestine as well. To add to the misery is the displacement of the people from one place to the other place, not only now in Palestine but also in Lebanon. Do you feel displacement is also a war crime that is effectively being used by Israel to further heighten the misery of the people in Palestine and in Lebanon?
Yes, indeed. Actually, you know, when the people are displaced, definitely they are going to face all kind of atrocities over there. Food shortages there. You know, there are reports that for 40 days there is no aid. There is no medical assistance, there is no food, and this absence of the food, this absence of the basic human necessities, that is not there, and for the displaced people, and that is really unfortunate. And the South Gaza, that is considered as better place other than the rest of the Gaza, they are facing such a kind of miserable condition that only 16% of the families, they are getting the basic necessities. It is about 30 to 34 trucks per month Israeli administration is letting pass from there, and eventually there are some days when there is no truck, no assistance, no humanitarian aid, and that is unfortunate for them, because obviously you are displaced, you don't have any home, and now you are under the sun with no food, no shelter. These are the basic human necessities that
one place or the other, Dr. Gul.i.Ayesha, then you are also bombarded by the Israelis. A deliberate tactic to, kill the Palestinians or make their life miserable as hell as much as possible, one way or the other. Thank you very much, Dr. Gul.i.Ayesha Bhatti, foreign affairs expert, to have joined us to discuss the continued misery of the people of Palestine and of Lebanon that has been happening since the last so many days. And I just hope for a ceasefire to happen. I just hope for some, sanity to prevail somewhere, somehow, in one means or another. Thank you very much, Dr. Saiba, to have joined us. Let's come to our last three stories very quickly. Is a noise the new weapon that is being used by North Korea against South Korea? Apparently seems so, because there are huge and humongous sounds of gunshots, screams, eerie laughter, which is being bombarded on South Korea's border island ganghwa, with these blood-curdling sounds and sounds that make that people cannot sleep properly in the night, they cannot work properly in the daytime. This looks to be a specific kind of torture mechanism, maybe by the North Korean side towards this side, and a lot of people are pointing towards this as have hindered their daily lives and daily lives to a large extent because of that propaganda broadcast as well. And you know, a lot of people are pointing towards North Korea, but will anything be done is something that only time will tell. Next, comedian, which is a banana duck taped to a wall by Italian artist Maurizio Cattelan, is causing a stir. This is not the first time it has caused a stir, because you know, it has gone to many an auction house, it gone to many a festival, and wherein people have bought it and then they have eaten the banana. This time also it has been sold at the Sothebys auction house for $6.2 million US. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a banana you know, and a duct tape that have been sold for $6.2 million US at Sothebys auction house. This banana has been repeatedly bought at previous occasions as well, and the Mr. Cattelan has made it again and has sold it at other auction houses as well. I don't know, it depends on the interpretation of art that you might have and anybody might have. For me, it could be black, for the others it could be a beautiful piece of art, so I leave it at that. Finally, a high difference proved no barrier as the world's tallest woman Rumeisa Golgi towered over the shortest woman Gul.i.Ayesha, while they both enjoyed each other's company, and this happened at a Guinness World Records meetup in London. At 2 meters and 15.16 centimeters, Rumeisa Golgi is a researcher from Italy, and she is the tallest in the world. She, of course, also discussed with Gul.i.Ayesha, who is an actor from India, who stands at just 62.8 centimeters. So both have different world records as being the longest and the shortest, but both got together and had a great time together. Now, since 2004, the Guinness World Records Day encourages people across the world to try and set new records, and that's interesting for all those who want to set new benchmarks as far as Guinness is concerned. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's Newsroom. We'll see you inshallah on Monday with new story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.